Good morning. We're live on YouTube on the Falcons Podcast. We're going to bring in our Falcons groups on Facebook. That's Atlanta Falcons on SI and Scott Kennedy Sports. 50,000 strong over there on Facebook as our YouTube channel keeps growing. Thanks to people like you. Thank you very much. And we are good. Question mark. One more. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast on a soggy Monday morning as we are 1 week closer to the NFL draft. My name is Scott Kennedy. I'll be your host. I am in Atlanta. This guy over here, Nick Kendall, he's in Seattle. So he gets up bright and early to join us for the Falcons Podcast, the way you are as well. So appreciate everybody being here. Like I said, 1 week closer. The mock drafts are starting to get a little bit deeper. A couple of things we want to get into on this show. ESPN released their post-free agency power rankings. We can hit on those a little bit. Chad Reutder did or Reutder, I'm not actually sure which that is. I'll say Reutder. Did a 4-round mock draft that left me kind of raising my eyebrows on several of the picks. So we'll get into that one, and we'll finish today with a mock draft of our own, a live mock draft, and we'll go all 7 rounds. And but we go live every Monday and Wednesday because we like having the conversation with you and with guys like this. Nick, how you doing this morning?
I am doing okay. I had a lot of time with the sun this weekend. My wife was getting ready for interview and a conference coming up and feeling a little under the weather. So a lot of, one-on-one time, which is both fun and frustrating at the same time, but it's good. And the cherry blossoms are starting to explode all around Seattle right now, which is really, really pretty. Everybody thinks of DC with the cherry blossoms, but Washington has a very Japanese-like climate. So we've had, 100 years ago, a bunch of Japanese ambassadors sent a bunch of cherry trees, and they're just everywhere. And it's really, really, really like a fluffy pink tree. So pretty cool.
Yeah, we're getting those here, and it also means it's pollen season down here in the South. Yeah. And if you've never experienced pollen season in the South, it is definitely interesting. You'll check, what's the pollen count today? It's like, well, anything dangerous is over 120. Today's pollen count is 4,922. You're like, I can't see. So yeah, it's always interesting, and I feel for you with severe allergies. I know when my eyes start itching, when I can feel it, I'm like, okay, the people with actual allergies, they're hurting today. So we want to say hello to some folks that have come in nice and early. John Harrell, I need to remember this. John sends me these awesome videos of his racing. I need to get them ready. I will show them. I want y'all to see these. Racing his Mustang, dropping 9s and 8 9s. Going out there on the quarter mile. It's pretty awesome to watch. Good morning, John. Alan, good to see you. He says, good morning, Nick and Scott and Falcons Nation. That's all y'all. Hey, bro, feels like it's been a little while since we've seen you. Welcome back. He says, I believe our moves weren't flashy, but solid role players. Yeah, there weren't going to be, as far as free agency goes, did they get better with the guys they got? Yeah. I like, Divine Diablo is a definite upgrade over Nate Landman. There's not much question there. And I'm not necessarily counting on Troy Anderson. Troy Anderson's probably better than all of them. But if he's only playing 2 or 3 games a year, then he doesn't count. Whatever you get out of him is bonus, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. You raised the floor in the room with your bringing in Diablo. Ellis is obviously your third best defensive player, versatile, your best pass rusher right now as well. But Anderson is a dice roll at this point, lottery ticket, a very good athlete. We talked about him coming out as he's such a good athletic profile. Can he play at edge? What are we going to do with him there? So you do have some versatility.
Can't play anywhere when he's on crutches or something, watching from the sidelines. Can't play anywhere.
Yeah. But your best ability is your availability. As cliched as it is, it's true. So he's a lottery ticket this season. And Diablo, I know you paid him okay. I don't know if that's just the linebacker market exploding, but comparatively, it's still backup borderline type of money for where the linebacker market went this season. So
he's 15th, man. He's as far as the top paid linebackers go, the Caden Ellis is at 7.11116 or whatever the divider is, and that puts him at 14th. At 7.0, Divine Diablo's average contract puts him right at 15th in the NFL. He's getting paid starter money. So the Falcons have 2 top 15 inside linebackers, paid inside linebackers in Divine Diablo, and Caden Ellis is extremely underpaid as far as I'm concerned. When there's guys making 20 and he's making 7.1 on average, Your mouth's moving while you're reading. So did I completely read this wrong? But that's how I wrote it up last week.
I'm looking at his average per year on Over the Cap, and it has him at the 28th ranking. But that might include.
That's probably all linebackers.
That's linebackers, but it's not including
counts outside. Edges. So when you scroll up and see Joey Bosa, you know you've got him. You don't have just the inside guys.
It's just the inside guys on Over the Cap. Yeah, this has him making. Of course, there's ads. But he and Ellis are right by each other. But as far as the average per year, $7 million. But there's guys making. I mean, there's 15 making 10 plus.
Yeah, I don't know. Then I don't know why Spot Rack is so much different. You know, how are they? Do they not count guys that are playing inside?
I'm not sure. But I'm looking at all these names.
If I look at Spot Rack, number one at Fred Warner is at 29 on average. Roquan's at 23 on average. Patrick Queen, but there's only 5 guys making more than 10, with Bobby Wagner making 9, and it comes down to Nick Bolton at 6.5. You know, he's getting a new contract, but Divine Diablo is now 17th on salary. That's cap hit, and that's cap hit. So I go cap hit.
That's probably why, because there's a lot
but no, I've done this differently though, because I was like, he wasn't at 17th. Contract average. There's 9 guys making more than 10, and 15 tied for 15th with Cody Barton with Tennessee at 7.0 is Divine Diablo with Caden Ellis at 7.2 at 14.
Over the Cap is a lot different. I don't know.
So I don't know. That changes the discussion, but I don't. I mean, either way, I think Caden Ellis is underpaid.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're correct. But I don't think Diablo should preclude you from keeping Anderson get the field or adding to the room or anything if you love a guy. I think he's just insurance for a position that linebacker is so weird, Scott, because like if you have a Ray Lewis or a Fred Warner out there, obviously it makes a big difference. But there's like just a bunch of solid players. I view it like tight end, right? Like there's not very many true difference makers. But with linebacker, if you are bad there, it can kill you. It's almost like offensive line. Like if you have an okay guard, whatever. If you have a terrible guard, the entire integrity of the unit can sink. And linebacker safety are a lot like that. Back 7. So getting some insurance there, raising the floor of the room, and just making sure that you're competent makes a big difference at that position. And teams paid heavily for it this year. This is the most we've ever seen linebackers paid. And that's with 5 of the 7 top guys this year not even hitting the market. They were signed Monday of legal tampering period back with their original team. So we'll see what happens here. Everybody got paid more. I don't know if it's just because it's a bad free agent market this year, but going to be worth following going forward.
Jet Jones, good to see you. Good morning, Elliot. Evan J, he's talking about PFF. We haven't used PFF's mock draft simulator in a while because we didn't necessarily like their rankings, which skews the draft. We'll try it today. We'll give them another shot. It's been a couple of weeks since we've done that one. Jet Jones wants to be able to trade down and maybe get Donovan Azaruko. I'm reading how you spelled it, and he says I probably butchered that one. You know, Donovan E from Boston College. Yeah, he's been one of those back end of the first rounds, anywhere from 25 to 40 is where I've seen him mocked a lot. So, you know, being able to go down and maybe get him is a good idea as well, Nick.
Azaraku, yeah, for sure. He's so fun because he tested better than I expected him to, and he is got an unbelievable amount of different moves. Like he's like somebody who, if you're playing like a Mortal Kombat or something, he knows all the different combinations. Like he's not just spamming the same move over and over, which if you're an elite enough athlete, if you have 1 or 2 moves and you can spam those, God bless you, that can work as a pass rusher, but that's not Azaraku. He will do 6, 7 different moves, and it feels like he'll like switch them up drive by drive as well. So he's got a pretty good floor because I don't think he's the most incredible athlete, tested better than I expected, but he does have a high floor as a pass rusher because it's kind of the Leatu Latu this class, I guess. Maybe not as big, but just, you know, refined with his hands. So that's somebody who I think good pass rusher. I'm always hunting for a little bit more athleticism and explosiveness, but that's just me.
Stephen B. Asked the question. He says, why wouldn't the Falcons send a lot of people on an afternoon road trip to UGA? I don't know if that's like a rhetorical question. They did. They sent like a dozen people up to UGA's pro day. So it was the biggest contingent the Falcons have ever sent. So, why wouldn't they? They did. I don't, how do you ask that? Why wouldn't they do that? Exactly. Exactly. They did. They sent like a dozen people, like the entire coaching staff and several administrative personnel were up at Georgia for their pro day. Ulbrich was overheard saying, about Malachi Starks, that might be the safest guy in the draft right there. Goodness. Liked what he saw out there. So, they're watching. Now, whether or not it comes out to be the right fit or not, we will see. Wanted to talk about the NFL.com. Chad Reutder did a 4-round, which I love. Let's go. First rounds are getting boring. It's all the same guys. Let's go a little deeper here. But his 4-round mock draft, he took, and we've said several times that it would be hard to mess up the first round if you're the Atlanta Falcons. It really would. But he ended up taking Jihad Campbell at number 15, which, if you get a game-changing inside linebacker at 15, so be it. But after free agency, I just feel like the one position that maybe got knocked down on immediate needs, where you've got a guy that you can plug and play as a starter right away, is inside linebacker. You've got Devine, you've got Caden Ellis, you've got possibly Troy Anderson, and then you've got a fourth guy who can do a job if in an emergency in JD Bertrand. So to go get Jihad Campbell at number 15, to me, feels like an overcompensation of sorts. Or, do I even say just, which I've said before about this team and their offseason strategy, a misuse of resources?
Yeah, I mean, Jihad Campbell is a excellent prospect. And the one thing about him that I think is interesting is that he was recruited as an edge rusher. He does have edge. There's good edge tape from him. Long arm. I mean, the good explosiveness, good, decent bend. And he was stuck behind in recruiting classes, guys like Will Anderson ahead of him, 2 years ahead. You got Dallas Turner. I think Q Robinson also out there, had some injuries, but he's a heck of a player too. So he's somebody who I'm not exactly sure, Scott, what his path will be in the league. I know some, following along in the offseason talking points, some teams think Campbell is going to be an edge rusher at the next level, and he brings a little bit of 2-level versatility. Now, that's always good in theory. How often does that actually work out? This guy's so versatile. He can play multiple positions. Well, why doesn't he just play the one position really well? But that's something you bring in. You have to talk with your positional coaches, but maybe he's not just linebacker for you. Maybe he's an edge solution, especially if you want to be a team that runs your fake pressures or whatever you want to call it, Scott. His versatility to drop into coverage as well and clog up passing lanes with his length and fluidity and space for his size is pretty interesting. So Falcons just need to get along. I'm with you, Scott. Like, I'm looking at the board here, I probably am more interested in Jahdae Barron, who I am quite high on from Texas. I think he's a little bit better.
16, who he had going to the Miami Dolphins with the next pick.
Yep. Just because I think I just can't imagine him not being a productive player. He's got such a high floor, versatile. He can play 5 different spots in the secondary. You just figure it out with him. But Campbell is somebody who people are talking about him going as high as 8 right now, Scott. So he's a really interesting athlete, fun profile. Just the tweener status-ish of him makes me a little bit concerned with him, just because the projection's not as clean.
Yeah, and we've said this about Jalen Walker too, who's been projected top 10 a lot, is if he profiles similarly to Caden Ellis, who's an excellent pass rusher and can line up all over the front 7, depending on situation. If you could get 2 of those guys, and if Jihad Campbell becomes that guy, then great. And maybe you're doing more 3 linebacker looks where, you're stepping up one of those guys onto your front 5. Or even front 6, depending. I would like to see a lot more Brian Flores, 9 guys in the box, and then drop guys out or rushing from everywhere. Zone blitzes, drop into coverage, whatever, confusing the quarterback at the line of scrimmage, rather than I've got 3 guys, I've got maybe 5 guys on the line of scrimmage, 4 guys on the line of scrimmage, but they're all 5-yard splits. My safeties are 20 yards deep, and my corners are giving 15-yard cushions. There's acres of space last year, and it was just agonizing to watch. So having a guy like that, I wouldn't be, as Corey says, be careful saying it's hard to mess something up. They take that as a challenge. I wouldn't consider Jihad Campbell to be a bad pick. I wouldn't say no way. What are you doing? This is nuts. You don't need this guy. Because yeah, you do. You need more good players. But it wouldn't be, like I said, out of all the positions of need, linebacker to me is the only one out of free agency that got changed, where the order has changed, where they've gotten moved down, is inside linebacker. Edge for me is still number one. Safety still a need despite signing a guy. Corner is still a need despite re-signing and signing some guys. Defensive tackle is still a need.
Went up.
Yeah, linebacker for me has gone down. So defensive tackle is still a need for me. And linebacker has gone down. If they come out of this draft without a linebacker, okay, I'd be okay with that. If they come out of this without an edge, corner, safety, defensive tackle, then you've got some big question marks. And you've only got 5 picks. There's 4 players right there, Nick.
Yep. Yeah, it's a tough spot. I mean, you have a chance at a good defensive player, but in this one, you had Will Johnson off the board already for you. You had, of course, also Jalen Walker.
You got Mikael Williams going at 17. You've got Jahdae Brown going at 16. Shamar Stewart at 19. Donovan Ezeraku at 22. Trade down. What do we keep saying? Trade down. Azrae Thomas at 24. Trade down.
I like him.
Walter Nolan at 26. James Pierce Jr. still on here. Nick Emenwari. Trade down.
Mike Green at 29. Yeah, it's the one spot I have a hard time with on this team, Scott, all the same, is safety. I don't know, safety's got paid a little bit more this season, but safety to me is somewhat of a cherry on top of a already well-built front seven, right? Like if you have a really good safety, but you're not getting any pressure up front, how much actual value are they bringing you? I don't know. So, I mean, granted, again, you're in the point where just get good players. If you think Starks or Amanda Warrior are going to be, multi-time all-pro players, God bless. That's what you need to do at 15 for where the Falcons are at, needing help and just players with gravity to them all across the defense. I guess other than the secondary, but even then you could still you need 3 in the back, 3 or 4 in the back 7 that you really like. So yeah,
I think the Jordan Fuller signing.
Yeah.
I like that signing. I think he's got the chance to be in Terry Fontenot's 5 years. Nick, this is our 5th season together, Nick. This is the 5th season I've been back covering the NFL. So it all kind of coincides with Terry Fontenot. So in this 5-year span, I think he's got the chance to be the best partner for Jesse Bates and basically the second best safety. Now, is he necessarily a better player than Justin Simmons? No, not necessarily.
No.
But he's younger, and Justin Simmons was put in awful situations last year and played poorly. I'm not saying Justin Simmons is a bad player. I'm saying he played badly. And if I have to choose, why did that happen? It's not because I think Justin Simmons is washed. No. It's because I think Jimmy Lake put his guys in positions to fail last year. And if I've seen people say, how do you talk about Jimmy Lake without talking about Raheem Moore? No, I get that too. I absolutely get that. Raheem Moore is a defensive coach, and he watched this stuff go on for way, way too long. And the failures of the Falcons defense goes to the head coach as well. But you're allowed to sacrifice your coordinators one time as a head coach. You're allowed to change them one time. You watch over and over and over again. Before the head coach gets fired, they will change coordinators. He's done that once. You don't get to do it twice, Nick.
No, you do not. So hot seat for them. And yeah, again, if they did pick Jihad Campbell, I'd give it probably a B-. What's the plan? I want to hear what the vision is with him. And I agree with you. He is maybe as a Caden Ellis-esque type of player, but maybe they view him as a full-time edge. I mean, he tested extremely well. He does have really good pass rush reps littered throughout tape at Alabama. And again, if you can get a force player, pass rusher along the front 7, that's a good get. And with where we kind of stand, Scott, with, questions with Mike Green's background, Shamar Stewart's production profile, what's going on there. And Mikael Williams, is he best at like a 4-eye? What exactly is he? What's his ceiling? Didn't test like an absolute freak. Now he's built incredibly, in unbelievable arms, maybe a DeMarcus Lawrence-esque kind of player. Dallas Cowboy, really good edge rusher for a number of years, but not always the most explosive or bendy. But gosh, the power profile really, if you pair him with a speed guy on the opposite side, you're cooking. But I don't mind the Jihad Campbell pick here, just because I do think that there's more than enough pathways to the field because he is a versatile player with a high pass rush ceiling.
I don't mind it, but I'm not. Again, it's way down the list for me. It is. And then I want to hit a couple. I want to hit the chat, and then I want to come back to the second round pick, where the combination of the two makes me go, okay, now I'm pissed. Yeah. So where it's like, okay, I'm back. Okay, I get it. Then the second round pick comes around. Now I'm pissed. Now I said, if this happens, I will not be nice on Monday after the draft. So, but I want to say hello to some folks that have come in. Oblivion Empire, good to see you, Jason. Michael Lewinsky, good to see you. Michael Baxter, good morning. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. And Alex Jones is double timing it here with the super chats. I'm not sure if you meant to. You can go into your subscriptions under YouTube and check it out if you didn't mean to. Otherwise, we just say thanks. But Alex comes in with a super chat. He says, good morning, guys. Is this offseason one of the worst off seasons in recent memory? And do y'all think Terry is waiting to move Kirk before more moves happen? Now this is a whole, we could go on for a while about this one, and we have. Is this one of the worst off seasons in recent memory? No, it's not. It's not good because they're cash strapped again in 2025 by design. You can't blame Kirk Cousins for them being out of money because they had planned on having Kirk Cousins. So it's not the fact that they gave him a 2-year guaranteed deal. They knew they were going to be paying him this year. So it's other deals that they're out of money compared to 2022. That was the worst offseason in recent memory. They had to move guys like, Matt Ryann and I think it was Matt Ryann, because they just traded Julio Jones the year before just to get cap compliant. They were cap compliant with Grady Jarrett. They didn't have to move Grady Jarrett, but I think he was taken a little bit off guard by what they actually wanted to pay him, and he had $30 million on the table. So he took off. They didn't have to make that move. Is this one of the worst ones? No. 2022 was the apocalypse type of year, and they won 7 games. Shocking. They just shocked me. That offseason and that roster was just so poor. To win 7 games, Arthur Smith did a good job.
Yeah. It's not the worst offseason memory, but this is a ramification for a big swing and miss with Kirk Cousins. And it's not fair, but everything with this Falcons team comes down to, is Michael Penix a guy at this point? And that's a hard ask, but that's kind of also true for the NFL in general, right? If you have the quarterback, everything else kind of falls in line. I do think you have the ownership. Not sure about coaching, but ownership and quarterback. If you have those two things in play, you can ownership and quarterback, you can get a long ways. But this is a year where you're going to have to kind of bite the bullet and try to scrape by, and hopefully the change in the coaching staff and a young ascending quarterback change the fortune of the team, change the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll see. It's definitely a ho-hum offseason with that, but you still have the big ticket here is Michael Penix. That's going to make or break everything.
And Evan, I'm going to come back to you, Alex, for the second part of this question. Master Kioski, good to see you. Good morning. He says, Evan says, Dog was not here for the 2024 offseason. That was, to me, one of the bigger wastes of resources and one of the dumber moves, singular moves, and it set your team back really badly this year by signing Kirk Cousins and then basically drafting a redshirt draft class. It basically really, really handicapped you, which we're seeing it for 2025. But again, what Nick just said is, if you end up getting your 10-year multi-time Pro Bowl quarterback out of the 2024 class, then that automatically erases the bad moves
without having to trade up.
Yeah,
also,
if for just the number 8, and if you get Michael Penix becomes the guy that they are counting on him to be, which is a lot. They've staked their jobs on this guy. Fontenot and Morris, they put their jobs on Michael Penix. that if he ends up being the guy that they're hoping he can be, then no, it's not the worst offseason because you got your franchise quarterback and $100 million screw up and a number 8 pick. It was worth it for the next decade for the long term. But Alex's second follow-up to that question is do y'all think Terry is waiting to move Kirk before more moves happen? I think it's the other way around, Alex. I think other teams are waiting on the draft to see what else they can do to acquire a quarterback before they would be desperate enough to try and send a trade for Kirk Cousins and picking up some of his salary, knowing that the Atlanta Falcons still don't want him. There's still every chance in the world that they end up cutting him, by August or whatnot, before they don't want him on the field. For me, the next really interesting deadline day is mandatory minicamp because they do not want Kirk Cousins at Flowery Branch. They don't want him in the quarterback room. So that to me is the next really, really deadline-ish type of day. Not the draft. It could happen in the draft, but teams are going to kind of wait and see what they do through the draft before they would make a move for Kirk Cousins, which doesn't do the Falcons any good this year.
No.
For a quarterback. So that's what I think. I think it's the teams that are waiting. Fontenot would pull the trigger on a decent trade right now if one was on the table.
Yeah, I still think that we might see him in Cleveland when it's all said and done. Some dust has to settle in the quarterback market, still all the same. Obviously, there's the draft, and until Cam Ward lands with whoever he lands with, the Giants might be, piddling around. We'll see what happens with Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson as well, but there's still more seats than quarterbacks available. So I don't think that it behooves the Falcons to be impatient there. Obviously, you do have some deadlines coming up, as you mentioned, with mandatory minicamp and everything, just for the interpersonal side of it. But draft, we might see a move day 3 or pretty quickly following the draft, just because we'll have some more ideas of butts and seats across the league in the quarterback market.
Rusty has a good question here as far as what hasn't been happening. Rusty with the super chat. Thank you, Rusty. Appreciate the support as always, my friend. He says, I'm surprised we weren't more aggressive with restructures, with free agent jobs being on the line this year and free agency with jobs being on the line this year. Did Arthur Blank say, don't mess with my cap for the next GM? I think he was a little more hesitant to dole out $100 million, to dole out $50 million in signing bonuses this year for sure. So, where are the Falcons for 2026 as far as available cap space goes? And remember, Kirk Cousins is still on there with a $57 million cap hit. At cap space for 2026, they're listed as having $100 million available, and that's with a $57 million cap hit from Kirk Cousins, which will at worst be $35 million. So you're going to get $20 million back on that. And the Falcons for 2026 have over $100 million in free agency money, which goes back to what I've been saying since last April, Nick. They made every single move after signing Kirk Cousins like they were pointing to 2026 as the year. Yeah. Kirk Cousins was, we want to get better. We want to throw the Falcons fans a bone. We want to show that we're actually trying to improve. But we don't think we're going to be good enough to do it in year 1. But we might be good enough to do it in year 3. Let's draft this bunch of guys, some defensive linemen for our 30-somethings that are going to be gone, get our quarterback of the future. We'll have a crap ton of free agency money in 2026. 2026 is our year. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they get to 2026. I don't think if they have a winning season, I'm not sure that Fontenot and Morris get a 2026. But it will be a very, very attractive job if it comes open.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to Penix, right? If you have the quarterback there, then it's going to be attractive. Maybe he saves the job or not. I mean, who knows? Defense could be that bad again. You're wasting a quarterback with supreme arm talent. So you do have some guys that are going to be on the market as it stands by 2026 as well. That'll change things a lot. Just looking at your financial commitments to that team, it doesn't look like on this mark. I don't know if this is correct, but Matthews maybe a free agent by then. That can't be right. But you have Ellis, who you'll have to decide on, and that's one that third contract linebackers. Yeah, you never know. And then also the big one is Drake London.
Drake's
Granted, I think you'll have the 5th year option, and the reason it's not shown up is because it hasn't been exercised yet. I think that's still coming this offseason. We haven't approached the deadline for that. That'll happen for sure. But that'll change your money a good bit.
There you go. So it's basically $100 million because the savings you will get from Kirk Cousins will go directly to Drake London.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, he's a top 10, 15 wide receiver, and he's
the max on his 5th year option will be 21.5. Right now it's at 16.8 because he got screwed out of the Pro Bowl last year. But the Pro Bowl would be worth $5 million to Drake London. So if you see him get screwed out of the Pro Bowl, okay, that's okay. The Pro Bowl's stupid anyway. Sorry you didn't get your extra $5 million, but the Falcons need it, and you're still getting 16. And you'll probably still get a new deal anyway.
I was going to say, it won't matter because it'll just be a bargaining chip that they have over him or leverage just in case they don't get a deal. But I'd imagine that before 2026, you'll have a deal in place for Drake London. And gosh, it's almost too bad after what happened with, all these wide receivers, Jefferson and Chase getting paid. You want to get that London contract in probably before Nico Collins gets a new deal if he possibly can. But we got AJ coming in and says, morning guys, haven't seen the mock. Please don't tell me it's wide receiver running back in the second. It's not. It's a interior offensive lineman who's probably 2 rounds too early. I give a shout out to Chad Reutder he throws a lot of names out there, and that's good because he embraces that the draft is an unknown, and some teams will have guys rated differently, and he goes against groupthink on that. But for a 1-year starter out of Georgia, probably in Jared Wilson, really tested like a freak athlete, one of the better testers on the offensive line this year at the combine. But a 1-year starter. I have questions about some of the strength. I think he's probably more of a late 3rd to mid 4th rounder, in my opinion, in a weak center class. So going mid-second, you're just bypassing way too much talent available, in my opinion, for a position that, again, I'm not against a center because I think you need to protect Penix at all costs. I've said all offseason, right? Even more so than the defense, Scott. What's more important to me? Making sure you have a top 10 offensive line because of Penix's injury history and everything. He makes or breaks everything for this team. So but I don't agree that that's a good pick for that selection. Range.
And Lance Zierlein, I think he wrote his scouting report before, because each one of the NFL profiles has a scouting report from Lance Zierlein, and I think he may have written it before the draft, the combine, because he talks about him having just so traits. But basically, with the second round, the Falcons go linebacker in the first in Chad Reutder's mock draft, and then they go center in the second round. And Lance Zierlein writes about Jared Wilson. Wilson is a 1-year starter lacking the size and power to hold his own against the NFL nose tackles. Great. Wilson, and then he finishes like this. Wilson has a shot to make a roster, but average traits and a lack of position versatility could make it tougher for him to just make a roster. So, and it's not even so much as that. If Gray Zabel falls to 46, that's one thing.
Yeah.
That becomes a best prospect available type. But if the Falcons come out of the first 2 days of the draft with a linebacker and a center, when you've got linebackers fairly well covered, your presumable starter is Ryan Newsel, who's started a bunch the last couple of years. You've got rights of first refusal on him, and he's probably going to be $3 million maybe is what he's going to end up costing. He was making just under 1 last year. So, he might get a 2-year, 3-year, $9 million contract with 5 guaranteed, something like that. You just got Divine Diablo, who's a starter. Troy Anderson, starter quality. Caden Ellis, starter. You're good at linebacker for the most part. If you come out of this with a linebacker and a center, I will not be nice. I will go scorched earth on the Falcons on Monday morning on our draft follow-up show.
Yeah. When we were talking about it, I did push back a little bit on Jared Wilson, and I shared in here. I can't pull it up, Scott, I don't have the ability, but his relative athletic score has him as the second best athlete at center in combine history. with a 9.98. Where does he rank? Second out of 622 centers from 1987 to 2025. Ran a 4.9 40, a 1.7 110-yard split. They don't do the agilities anymore at the combine, but the vertical and broad were both 94th percentile, 96th percentile. So he tested unbelievable, and for an outside zone centric team, and also not totally too stubby. I mean, 32.5 arm length, not ideal. You'd rather see 33, 34, the tackle size, but not 30 by any means. He's not out there looking like a T-Rex. So he's one that I think probably, like I said, end of the third round, mid fourth. And if he was there for your fourth round pick, Scott, that makes all the sense in the world for me, for the Falcons, for where they're at. Especially, again, you're with Robinson in the outside zone. You want some athleticism at the center position to reach those linebackers to combo block and climb the ladder. But at pick, 40, whatever it is.
Yeah, 46.
Yeah, and just looking at the other guys available there, I mean, still with needs all across the defense.
And you're coming out without really filling any of your immediate needs for a team that needs to win now to save your jobs, and you ended up getting a couple of non-premium positions with your only 2 premium picks. To me, that would just be poor. It would be, it's like, well, Scott, the Falcons, I don't even think they need a linebacker right now. Like I said, if they go into the season with Troy Anderson, Divine Diablo, Caden Ellis, and JD Bertrand as your 4, and then plus whoever they add as 5th guy, practice squad guy, so be it. I'm okay with that. There's bigger problems to address. If you go into it with Leonard Floyd, Arnold Ebiketie, D'Angelo Malone right now, well, hell, there's not even a 4th that I can think of that goes out there. And I go out there with Rook Orohoro, Brandon Dorless right now, and we'll see what happens with David Onyemata. And Rusty, let me come back to Rusty on this.
I did want to talk about the guys that were still available, though, at that spot. I mean, just the talent you bypassed. Alfred Collins, a run defense unto himself, probably one of the top 2 run defending interior defensive linemen in this class. Siobhan Ravel, I mean, if he's healthy, he's got a chance to be the best cornerback in the class, Scott. He is massive. And, God, he's such a good athlete. Nick Scourton falls to pick 54.
You're missing premium positions with players that you not only that you need more, but at premium positions. You go and fill again. It hasn't happened, but the thing is why I'm like getting us. It's like I can see it happening. We've seen this stuff happen.
Yeah,
it can't happen again. It can't. They cannot go questionable, like, oh, well, we think it's too early to play Jihad Campbell, so that's why we signed Divine, so he can sit back and learn. Oh, yay, that sounds great. All the everything is awesome crowd will say how smart that is, while the Falcons still haven't had a winning season since 2017. Man, I wish I could root for a team who did everything right. That must be just awesome. I don't wake up that way. I wake up angry. I still think, as far as some of these moves go, I'll still be surprised if David Onyemata is on this contract July 1st. So there's still room to be made there. Caleb McGarry, there's still a lot of room there that can be made. And then, in an emergency, then when you're already underwater, that's not the ideal time to restructure a contract. When your dead cap is bigger than your cap hit, that's when you're underwater. And that's where your good players are. That's where Chris Lindstrom is, where AJ Terrell is, where Jesse Bates is. Borrowing against their future earnings is not the best way to create cap space, because that ends up catching up to you eventually.
Yeah, and just as far as, the void years and everything, I think it does make sense not to go all in on the Michael Penix build right now, or all in on Raheem Morris and create this space, because what are you creating space for? I think this season, especially with the free agent class the way it was, lacking draft capital, I mean, just how much actually better by adding players could this team feasibly be? It's the improvements from this team are going to come from coaching competency on the defensive side of the ball in theory, and having a more mobile quarterback, because would not be hard to do that after Cousins last season, and a ascending player at that position. After that, if we answer those 2 questions, then you can 2026 offseason, void years, restructures, blah, blah, blah. You have the ability to do that. But for where they're at right now and the pathways available to improve this team, I just don't know if that's a smart long-term move. I think it's more important to maintain flexibility and financial frugality for where you're at right now until you answer those two questions.
Stephen B is in a really salty mood today. Stephen, good to see you. Stephen Salty B, where were you talking about as far as, the money when it goes to free agency? Oh boy, $100 million and, they don't know how to spend it. Yeah. Terry Fontenot's done a good job in free agency, outside of, and honestly, the Kirk Cousins deal by itself wasn't necessarily a bad deal if you think you're going to be a playoff team and actually go for it. Hedging your bets and getting Kirk Cousins for $100 million and then not investing after that in the draft, that's a bad strategy. The Cousins contract wasn't all that bad for how he was playing before he got hurt. So it's not a good deal. Don't get me wrong. It's not the way I would have gone. But as far as signing free agents, Terry Fontenot's done a good job. They had money in 2023. They got David Onyemata hit. They got Calais Campbell hit. They got Bud Dupree hit. They got Caden Ellis hit. They got Jesse Bates hit. They've done a good job with their pro scouting department. It's their methodology and resource management and drafting, which are big things, that I call into question more often.
Yeah, we'll see again out of that. And I did want to get to the final player that you had drafted in Chad Reuters here, because I actually do know him. Jonas Sanker, Virginia. He's a fine player for the 4th round pick. Not really a great athlete, but a smart player all the same. Pretty good as a open field tackler. I think he has pretty good instincts. Not super explosive, twitched up. You're not going to see him, fly downhill and make a big play. I also think he's a little stiff. But for this class, I think there's a massive drop off after like the top 100. So if you love the football character there, I think because he is a smart enough player, I think he can play free safety or a quarter half kind of stuff and come down and play some big slot as well. And I think has high special teams ability to, just because of the intelligence. Now, because he's not a supreme athlete, maybe there's a little bit capped there on the special teams, but a fine player all the same. And I don't have much of a problem there other than 3 picks at 3 non-premium positions. But in the 4th round, that's when I'm looking for linebacker this year. I'm looking for center this season. Like, let's say you took Jihad Campbell there in the 2nd round. You took Nick Scourton, Texas A&M. And then the 4th round, you took Jared Wilson. Hell yeah. Sign me up. That's fine. You get a lot of different body types there. Go for a non-premium position. But I think this would be, if this happened for the Falcons, I'd give them probably a C- for it. And the big difference would be, what's Jihad Campbell's pathway? Because I do think that the profile is interesting enough that he can end up being a damn good player, but very, very underwhelming.
Well, he's a replacement for Caden Ellis when Caden Ellis moves on. Well, that's not getting better.
Yeah. And we're both the same. We want to trade down, and my guy, I keep spamming stuff with you for him, but I really like Azare Thomas out of Florida State. Really young, big athlete, just so good in man coverage. And with Jeff Ulbrich, I think you're going to see a lot of man, and you need multiple island corners there. You also need pass rush, but you also need multiple island corners. I think how high did Azare Thomas go in this? Like 23, 24?
Yeah, he's mid-20s.
If you could trade down and take a shot at him, he would make a lot of sense for me. Again, if we had to sit there and pick at 15, I'd probably take Jahdae Barron. Is he the world's best scheme fit for Ulbrich if you're going to live in a cover 1 world? I don't know. He proved athletic enough that he can hang there, but I don't know if he's like your best purely boundary cornerback. I think his best spot is the slot, and letting him use his instincts in more zone robber stuff, freelance a little bit, but such a good tackler, very smart. Ball production is insane. Can play slot, boundary, strong safety, free safety. I mean, he's the versatility there, really high. So he's one that I probably go with there if I couldn't trade back.
Evan J coming in with a super chat. Thank you, Evan. He says, have you guys looked at Jack Sawyer? I know Nick has. He's a Big Ten guy. Great tape and big time in moments. Also, the Gus Johnson calls with him are incredible. Must-see stuff, definitely. You had me at Gus Johnson. Love Gus. I'm looking for, if you go in the 2nd round at edge, which is possible, if you go corner in the 1st round, then there's good players. We'll show you here in a minute that have been available time and time again as your edge rushers. If I could get a Bud Dupree in the second round type. Someone who can get pressure, get you, 6 to 8 sacks a season, and is really, really good at setting an edge and playing run defense. I'd be really happy with that. Does that fit Jack Sawyer, Nick, at all?
Yeah, he's a very high floor player, a good energy player. I think you'd love to have him in your locker room just because of how he competes. I do think that he's not an overwhelming athlete. And the thing I come back to with him, because he's not a good athlete, you loved him to be a physical presence and a edge setter and kind of a power player, 6'4", 260. Scotty's got 31-inch arms. And you see that on tape. He has a hard time sometimes getting guys in his grasp. There's a little bit of whiffing at air if a guy makes him miss a little bit or gets some space with some upper body strength. So he didn't test all that well either. So I think he'll probably end up being a round 3 guy at the end of the day. I think his teammate JT Tuimoloau, there we go, is actually going to be a higher player. He's got a more of a power profile with length. I think he's got a much higher floor because of the athleticism he has, especially if you're looking for an edge setting run defender. But that 31-inch arm length is concerning. Not the bendiest player, but man, he's definitely a locker room kind of guy as well. So I'm thinking he's going to go round 3 at the end of the day, but I don't know how high his ceiling is.
We're running a little low on time here, so let's hit start on this mock draft. We are using PFF today. We haven't used these for a while. And MITM, Adamsville, any news on Trey Hendrickson? It's pretty quiet. Otherwise, the big news coming out of Cincinnati is that they just put half their cap into 3 guys, and one of them isn't Trey Hendrickson. So I think they would still be willing to move him. So we will see. Ocean Boy, Terry, good to see you. Welcome back in. He says, it's been a while. It has been a while. We're glad you're here. Thanks for joining us today. Well, let's hit start draft on this. As far as, who's available here, round 1. Oh, Malachi Starks goes to the Dolphins at 13. Shamar Stewart is off the board to the Colts at 14. There's Mike Green and Will Johnson. It comes down to, and James Pierce, they still have him really high. They have Donovan Ezeraku up at their 16th best prospect. When we talk about trade down, y'all, this is why. I've got questions here on just about every one of them, and I could be happy with 5 or 6 guys here. Man, get me into the 20s and get me another day 2 pick, preferably a second rounder.
Let's see who the trades
we've
are.
Never done a draft. Where do you want to go here? I mean, we do the same ones over and over again. I end up taking Mike Green every time. Who might not even be on the Falcons board after a pair of, sexual assault allegations coming out of college.
One in high school and one in college. What about the trade offers? I know that we don't typically do that, but we put our money where our mouth is.
Yeah, it becomes too easy to do this. But
this is for fun.
We can. So Tampa, there's no offers. You have to basically select. If I go to 19 and give them 15, and I get 53, they don't want 53, but they want 84. They do 100% 84. Maybe if I send them back 218, no, that doesn't move the needle at all.
Send them back 118.
I'm not giving up my 4th.
Oh,
they accepted it. So we got 53 out of it by moving back. Resume draft. And Mike Green and Will Johnson are still there, and we picked up a second. And Donovan Ezeraku, the only one that left on our board was James Pierce Jr. I could do this all day. I'd go down to 25, 19, and I want 79 and 166 and a future 4th.
All right. We're good. Let's do it.
I mean, this is how I want to be wheeling and dealing. I want Monty Hall out there that day.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the board fell where our guys, Will Johnson.
Yeah, now all those guys that we really wanted left. So what's that say? It says we might not want to be below 22.
Yeah, but I really do like scroll down a little bit here. I think Derek Harmon is an interesting player here because of his versatility. Something we haven't talked about much here, but he could play all spots across the line of scrimmage for you guys on this defense. I like Tyler Williams.
Worry must be gone, or they don't like him.
Who?
Nick Emenwari.
I think he's further down.
Yeah, he is.
There he is.
He's at 45, and now I've got a couple of. We're going to be here forever if we don't get on this, Nick.
Yeah, no. Let's shake it up a little bit. Let's go with Derek Harmon here, just adding another log to the fire. I think he's a first-round caliber pick. I've heard that he could go. He's starting to get mocked in the teens all of a sudden, Scott. So I think that he's raising up the boards. You just need to throw logs on the fire on the defensive line. Now we get our second-round pick for the Falcons.
I'm going Nick Emenworry here. I'm not even looking any farther.
Okay, I've heard some concerns about his between the years coming out of the combine. That could just be from one team.
I'll move him to a box safety and say, go get Ball. He's 6'3", 220 pounds and runs 4.3 with a 40-something inch vertical leap. I'll move him into the box and say, get Ball. Jack, sick balls.
The one I was going to...
Chopper, sick balls.
I think Siobhan Revell is also an interesting player here because he's such a freak height, weight, speed athlete at cornerback. I also like
pick again at 53.
Yep.
So we go JT Tuimalu there at 53. We picked up another one here. I can go linebacker now. Now I don't mind it so much. Linebacker, I could still use a corner.
Yep. I think
the
Benjamin
top
Morrison
corner on the board is sitting there at 66, and I'm picking at 79.
There's Jared
Wilson down here. I would be. I want to go. Biggest need, best player on the board is the same guy. Is corner.
The big issue with Benjamin Morrison is he's had multiple hip issues, but we don't have the information there. So I think you're fine taking Benjamin Morrison.
Let's just follow the board then and say, hey, you can't do that. And I'd say, okay, great. That's why I'm not making these picks. I haven't done all this homework. I'm following the board and needs. I do know what the Falcons need right now.
I'm going to make a call here for Ashton Gelati. He didn't have as good of a statistical season in 2024, but he had 10+ sacks in 2023. I think a very high floor player, and you're taking advantage of a very good defensive edge rush depth class. I think he maybe is only ever your edge three, but still, you need waves of guys, so I don't even mind.
With all of these, the Falcons are still going to be in the market for a backup quarterback. If I pick up 5 extra picks, I don't mind using a fifth rounder on a quarterback, but I also like having a pass catching tight end to Brenningstool as far as guys go. Why'd you go corner? Or you know what? A backup center might be nice too.
Yep. I don't mind Seth McLaughlin there. I like Thomas Fidone, the Nebraska tight end, H-back body type. He makes some sense. We're looking at the board here.
Now I want to get maybe some. I've got 2 new safeties in Emenworry and Jordan Fuller.
One of my favorite guys.
I'm looking for who runs a 4.3. That's what I'm looking for. Who ran a 4.3 and doesn't know how to play football? That's what I'm looking for in the 7th round.
I'm also looking at special teams. All the same, and one of the best special teamers in the class is UNLV wide receiver Ricky White. He has multiple blocked kicks during his time there. Didn't test overly well, but I think he's somebody who interests me a good bit. And you talking about backup quarterback, maybe Brady Cook. He can spin it. He's somebody who did not a great quarterback all the way. Yeah, no way. We need a man-to-man cornerback.
And Troy, you're not getting those guys where we drafted him in the 4th and 5th round. Those guys go first. Yep. So if you want to get a starting plus, man, you better take him in the 1st round, which is fine. But at this point, you're looking for guys who are pretty good football players that have some traits when you get to day 3.
If we wanted a man corner, it would have been that pick with Nick Emenworry. There was, I think Trey Amos was still available, and you had Siobhan Revell. That's the spot where you could have gone with somebody there. Scott, I think there's not an issue on the board per se, but somebody here who makes too much sense. Scroll up a little bit. I think Ty Robinson, defensive line, you need to throw logs on the fire. He's a little bit linear, but he tested very well. He's Nebraska. You see the Nebraska logo.
No.
There you go.
All right, that's good.
He's somebody who makes a lot of sense for me in this time. So here we go. 2 trades. Get some picks here. Logs on the fire. By all means, you added.
I got another 4th rounder for next year.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, we really added young, cost-controlled players there.
Defensive line, safety, edge, corner, edge, center, special teams, defensive line. So there's definitely ways you can go that for sure.
Yeah.
John Knight, I don't even remember the last time Atlanta traded back in the 1st round. Trade everything away to get an earlier pick, but not trade back. Yeah, I agree. I don't remember the last time they traded back either. because the only one that came to mind was they traded out of the first round for the rights. I think the Colts took Jeff George. The Falcons had the number 1 overall pick that year. So how long ago was that? That was 30 years, 40 years. It's been a while. So I don't remember them trading back in the first round that much either. But Terry Fontenot, and I believe him on this because it makes too much sense, is we're open for business to move back. Okay, come and make us an offer. He has publicly said that. Publicly. This isn't just conjecture. Watch what they say, not what they, don't listen to what they say, watch what they do. I think they'd like to move back. I mean, you've only got 5 picks. You've only got 2 picks on the first 2 days. I think they would like some more that one. Yeah, and then the Falcons ended up with Jeff George anyway. As far as like guys that have played for your team that left and made complete asses of themselves, I think number 1 and 2 on Atlanta sports list for me are Jeff George and Melky Cabrera. But that's a different story. Nick, like I said, we could go defensive line here. We got some edge depth, got a corner in the 3rd round you hope you can play. Met some needs here. Trade back. That's what you're looking for. If the Falcons need more players, they need more good contracts, more picks. More than what you see on my screen here with these picks, moving back is what I want you to take away from this. Not, why'd you take this guy? No. Move back. That's what I want.
Yeah. I mean, it's you get you raise the floor a lot with a move like that. And somebody's asking about man corners in here. After that mid-2nd round, it kind of falls off a little bit, but I'd keep an eye out for my favorite round 3 man cornerback is Jacob Parrish out of Kansas State. I don't know if he was available instead of Benjamin Morris. We were just kind of rock and roll there. But he's smaller. I think he's 5'10", but he tested extremely well, and my guy competes. I don't know if he's going to end up being a boundary cornerback. The way he presses, despite not being very big, I think he could hang on the boundary. But if not, he's going to play the slot and be a good tackler. So keep an eye out. He's one of my favorite players in the class, in Jacob Parrish out of Kansas State.
AJ asks, hey Scott, Nick, how far are you willing to go? How far back are you willing to go? It depends on the offer.
Yep.
I don't know. He says, what if a top tackle is there at 15 and Kansas City calls? They need a tackle. Kansas City's probably at 31 since they finished runner-up to the Super Bowl. Would you go back to 31? Yeah, if they offered me a 2nd and a 3rd, or a 2nd and a future 2nd, it would cost more. So you're willing to deal. Again, I'm not as interested, at least I don't think the Falcons are going to be as interested in future picks, meaning 2026. Well, we'll send you a 2nd and a future 3rd. Do we need stuff now? We need them now. If I'm Terry Fontenot, I need those guys now. Yeah. I can't save them for possibly my successor. So again, it depends on, what's the deal. They might have multiple. I don't know what Kansas City has. They might have multiple day 2 picks. Well, they should have. They should have at least 2, right? 2nd and 3rd rounders. They might have more than that. Send me a 2nd and a 3rd. I'll go back to 31 and pick up a 2nd and 3rd round pick. I'll go from 15 to 31 for a 2 and a 3 in this year's draft, Nick.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the teams that I'm keeping an eye on as far as trade back for the Falcons at 15, I think that there's a chance that maybe Green Bay comes up for a wide receiver. They're putting a lot of work there. Texans also looking for offensive line. That's a team to keep an eye on. The Rams, they don't have a lot of capital, but I don't know if you followed this last offseason, Scott, but Sean McVay was frothing at the mouth to go get Brock Bowers. They tried from pick 10 all the way through. So Colson Loveland falls past the Colts at 14. They sound like they want to get much more 12 personnel with a versatile tight end like Loveland. So I'm keeping an eye on them. I'm also keeping an eye on the Ravens moving up for an edge rusher, a pass rusher of some sort. And the Bills. Bills have been mocked by all the premium mock folks out there. Kenneth Grant. I don't know if Kenneth Grant is making it to 30, and the Bills have a lot of picks this season. So I'm keeping an eye on the Bills as a potential trade-up team as well. And then, of course, Browns, Giants, somebody for the quarterback if somebody falls to try to get ahead of Pittsburgh. Or maybe Pittsburgh moves up for a quarterback too. So plenty of options there. I think this is the first round in 30 years, Scott, where every single team still has their first round pick at this point in the offseason. And we're exactly 1 month away from the NFL draft. So fun times.
Yep, we'll see how that lasts. So we'll get out of here. We're right at an hour. Had a lot of fun today. We'll be back on Wednesday. See if there's any new news. We'll get into some new things as we go to Wednesday and get back into your questions. Want to say thank you very much to Alex Jones, to Rusty Moore, and to Evan J for coming in with the super chats and helping to keep the lights on, keep my forehead nice and shiny, even on a cloudy day like we got in Georgia today. We will be back on Wednesday. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time.
Peace.